My name is Travis. I'm from the Minneapolis-St. Paul area of Minnesota. I'm an operations manager in manufacturing, and I have actually been in 3 Ashcroft deals. 2 were individual properties for multifamily, and then most recently I joined the value add fund that they just launched. My prior experience in small multifamily, you have some vacancy and it can be pretty impactful. So the cost of the current, I would say small multi and single family housing market got pretty expensive, and the impacts when you had a vacancy were pretty serious. And so I transitioned into multifamily with Ashcroft to try and create both some more diversification across across the United States and across different geographic locations, but also to increase, I would say, the strength of the investment. You lose 1 or 2 or 3 or even 10 occupants out of a multifamily apartment, and it barely hits your NOI, whereas you have that hit on a duplex or a single family location, and it's pretty impactful. So just diversity in both the geographic location as well as the stability you get with the larger occupancy. There's really 3 or 4 things that set Ashcroft apart as one of the reasons I picked them. Most importantly was the experience. You think about Joe and the network and the breadth of, I would say, his presence. He's got a podcast, they've got a conference, they've got a report that they do. He's pretty out there, and I think when you put yourself out there that significantly, you really take your business seriously. And so that for me was important. And then you look back at their past performance back to 2015 and the deals that they've closed and the track record. That history was important to me. A couple other things that were important were the amount of diversity, both in the asset types and locations. So I think Ashcroft's done a really good job of pursuing the markets that are emerging and not just sticking in those locations, but looking across the Sun Belt and the different spots that are really hot right now. And then I'd say the returns are probably on par with what you'd expect to see with most passive syndications. But one thing that was really particular for me is I did want monthly distributions, and that isn't necessarily a guarantee with every syndicator. So between the returns and then that monthly distribution, those are kind of the last key criteria that were important to me. I didn't have any specific concerns before I would say doing my research with Ashcroft. I reached out. I was a little worried about it's my first one, and I didn't really trust in the beginning the process and understanding it. So I had some really good connections with some investor relations people directly with Ashcroft, and they actually gave me contact information for other investors that they'd worked with. So I was able to connect with other people that had done had done prior deals with Ashcroft before. And it was great to talk to them and feel confident that the experience that they were sharing was as good as I was hoping it would be. The other thing that made me a little nervous going into it was just the whole investor accreditation part of it. I wasn't aware of what was required for that, and it kind of intimidated me. And after walking through the process with the direct relationship with Ashcroft, it was very simple. It took about 15 minutes. So that was something that was kind of daunting for me, but ended up being not that big of a deal when it all got said and done. This was actually my first partnership with an operator or a syndicator, and it's gone really, really well. I've been surprised at how good the communication is and how little it leaves to question for me. And all of their distributions and projections have been met as they had planned. As a newer, I'd say, investor in the space, probably the biggest thing is just the predictability. I previously to this experience had some active management experience, like landlording and owning single family and duplex real estate. And prior to joining as a limited partner, it's very time consuming. And so I was worried basically giving up some of that control and allowing somebody else to kind of take the reins and be confident and be trusting that everything would go well. And so far it's been super reliable, super predictable, and I don't feel like I'm missing out on any of the details that I would have normally wanted to see. The 3 things for me that really are important to me is communication, returns, and then I would say reputation and track record. And all 3 of those feel very predictable to me with Ashcroft. It's very consistent for communication. The returns have been exactly what I'd expected, and they're basically matching what I'd experienced when I did my research, that they're a very reliable group of individuals that know what they're doing and have delivered on the results that they said they were going to. All 3 deals that I'm in have exceeded their projections so far. So the first year payouts have been as exactly as it expected. And then when they closed out their first year, each of them basically made a bonus distribution based on the fact that they were performing better than they had expected. So all 3 have exceeded the NOI that they had projected and the returns for me as a limited investor. And there's been some occupancy ups and downs based on how they've been converting the units, but overall the return for me has been more than what they had communicated. So everything's been going great with all 3 of them so far. As someone that has spent a little bit of time in active management, it was a pretty scary experience to go from, owning something down the street where I could go drive by it and see it, to wiring my money to a stranger across the United States. And after all the research I did, and after all of the, I would say, like interviews and discussions I've had, I thought it was important to help give back in a way that I could kind of share my story and my experience to provide an example of another person that's made the jump from something more local and active to something more passive and maybe seemed like a little bit of a stretch. And hopefully me sharing my experience is something that will give someone else some confidence to take the risk, because I couldn't be happier that I've invested with Ashcroft. I will continue for sure to invest with Ashcroft. I'm a very passionate person when it comes to building relationships, especially when it comes to real estate. And so far, the partnership that I've had with Ashcroft has been great, and I look forward to continuing to invest and hopefully reinvest in closes and exits into future and additional deals. The main thing that I think is important is like the connection and the relationships that Joe and I think the team develop really set, I think, his experience and my confidence in the group apart. When you put yourself out all over social media in so many different ways and so many different methods, there's going to be a lot of eyes on you. And I think he does a great job of having his network and the business that he puts out there be successful for everyone.